So it's really varied. I think the big data potential, and it's kind of like lots of things in IT that we need, or even business systems. We need to get the use case that we're going to do and how we're going to use something. So, for example, Treasury use a lot of big data sets to do economic analysis. So we take big data sets from lots of sources and we run technology over them to do analysis and build forecasts and models. And so for Treasury, that is really important, and that has the more and more data we can collect, the more and more we can get more accurate forecasting, build better models, and so big data in that sense is really important to Treasury for better economic predictions. For an agency like, say, the tax office, it would be better for more accurately forecasting tax collections, or thinking about how they might collect tax, or for human services, things like getting welfare out to people, potentially pre there being issues, saying, the economic indicators, the social, the demographic indicators out of this collection of data has meant that, or has indicated that there could be some issues, so they'll do that. Law enforcement's a classic. We can predict crime's about to peak because these 5 things have all triggered, and there's a pattern that always occurs in that sense. So there is that, and I guess it is complicated because big data is a complicated space. It's kind of like cloud computing was the last big buzz. Big data is that, and so I think getting it right and understanding what it is and what it isn't can be kind of a challenging space. So getting your definitions and use cases right is important. There's a whole lot of tools that you can use to do data analytics, business intelligence. There are a huge range of them, and I mean we've been doing business intelligence and modelling for years and years, and so some of it is just building on what we've done already and making it faster and more real time. And so if you think about lots of good business analytics tools, and there are products like SAS, Cognos TM1 that we use in Treasury, eViews, there's a whole range, even Excel, and you can do a whole bunch of really clever analytics out of a lot of tools. The interesting kind of consideration is, are these tools capable of dealing with big data sets? So when you're talking not just about data sets that are a couple of gigabytes, you're talking about massive data sets that are publicly available sets sitting in places like Hadoop, and you're pointing at them and just extracting data out of them. How do you deal with those? And so I think there's a really interesting data science field of development coming, where people are saying, we're actually going to start turning things out, these data sets that are not just massive, but they're incredibly massive. And so there are lots of tools out there. I think it's just a challenge of being able to interpret data real time and give you good results. So yeah, big space. So the privacy space is a really interesting one, because I think it's kind of your interesting analogies in that space, or the things that people always think about, are movies like Gattaca, where people had people's DNA streams and they were doing this and they were doing that, and they were, or the Minority Report, where you're walking through a shopping centre and it says, oh, hey Joe Citizen, you should buy this. And so we've collected all this data and we've got it available real time about people. But most of the big data and the analytics we're looking at aren't in that space at the moment. I'm sure some of those will come, and we certainly do have to make privacy an important part of it. But a lot of the data we're collecting and we're thinking about is it's anonymous data. It's collected at a level that makes it very hard to identify individuals, and we do that really well at the moment. The Bureau of Statistics, for example, collects huge volumes of data for its statistical survey, in its surveys for various purposes, but they de-identify them. We're good at that, so I expect we'll keep doing those things. The fact that we're thinking about privacy and we're saying we know it's an issue that we'll have to deal with is an important one. There are other issues that we need to deal with, like the veracity of data. People talk about big data, about the volume and the velocity and the variety, but we also have the veracity of it, because it has to be accurate, or consistent. So we have these. There's a range of challenges. Privacy is just one, but I'm really confident that Australia does a pretty good job of privacy. We've got a great privacy commissioner, so I think that will work well. The role of the CIO and how it will change in the future. I mean, I think CIOs generally to maintain relevance have to become much more focused on business operations of their organisations, whether it's a government department or a business. They have to think a lot more about the implications of processes and outcomes. They have to not be focused on cost as much as benefit, and so it will be a really challenging space. And I think the skill base for CIOs will become people who understand technology well, but aren't necessarily technologists in the sense that I used to run a bunch of servers, or I used to be a database expert or a coder. I think those skills will be important, and I think they are important to understand, but I think they have to be balanced with a whole set of other business skills that are needed. I mean, and it's already here. Most of the CIOs that are successful are people who are focused on delivering business benefit, not on and cost control. When I say cost, they're still important, but it has to be a bit secondary to delivering benefit, where previously I think kind of an older school CIO would think more about cost control and risk management more than benefit. These type of events and attending technology in government specifically, the benefits are really profound, and there's three kind of ways, and I think anyway. One is going to the presentations where you see people talking about things that matter to them, and so you're getting a perspective of what's important to someone, whether they're a government agency CIO or an IT leader or a vendor. So they're telling you things that matter to them. Second is then the show floor, where you can go around and talk to people. People are out there demoing what's good to them, and they know they've got a really limited window to show off what they've got, so they're trying their best, and so you can go around and see things in a really good experience. Sometimes that's much better than having people come and see you at your offices. It's a bit more casual, so it's good. And the third and kind of arguably most important is the networking, where you can talk to vendors, you can talk to people from other government agencies you might get much of a chance to talk to. So I think those three things together make it really valuable.